All right, y'all, good morning. I hope you are doing well. And I changed locations for today because I wanted to show this craziness right outside my window. We got a crazy amount of snow this past weekend. It is the middle of April. This is absolutely crazy making. But so I've had all kinds of processing to figure out how I really feel about the craziness of this weather. Those of you who are in the Midwest, some of you in Canada, you've gotten some of the same craziness too. So I know you feel me. For those of you in other parts of the country, you're like, that is crazy making. I don't want anything to do with that kind of weather. So hopefully you can kind of see it. But basically, I think we got 16 inches here where I live. And it's the middle of April. It should be spring. It should be green and beautiful and all of those things. And so I actually was kind of processing that. Cindy, you got that snow too. I was actually processing that because I think for some of us as leaders, sometimes we have to navigate the unexpected, right? Or we have to navigate the seasons where things aren't going the way that we want them to, or the way that we hoped that they would, or there are certain parts of our life and leadership that are thriving, and then there are certain parts that are not. And that's a bit of what this season of snow kind of reminded me of, is that, in some parts of life, there are things that are going really, really well. And then there are some things that are rather unexpected and not what we hoped for. And yet we have to kind of find the beauty and find the significance in them. And I was reflecting on my early career days, so to speak. Some of you know that I worked in the music business in Nashville right after college. And it was one of those seasons of life where I was pursuing my dream, eagerly excited to live out some of the vision and the ideas and the calling, so to speak, that I had on my life. And I went to Nashville, rented a room with some other roommates. It was more than I could really afford. I was interning at the record company that I hoped to work for. I was working at the mall part-time on the side, just scrapping it together to make ends meet. And I literally had $20 a week was my budget for groceries. And I would go to the store and I would buy a loaf of bread and I would buy peanut butter and I would buy a few other necessities. But I basically lived off of peanut butter sandwiches in that season of my life. And I'm not joking. And I actually still love peanut butter, which is a little crazy. But I call those my peanut butter days. Those were the seasons of my life where I didn't have a lot of resources, but I was absolutely thriving in the work that I was doing something I was really passionate about, really excited about. And I just was, I was okay with peanut butter days because I was able to really live out some of the things I was really excited about pursuing. And I've reflected on my peanut butter days a lot through my leadership, because I don't know about you guys, but I've certainly had those seasons where I was okay, if I just get this one thing navigated, if we figure out this problem, or if I get this staffing situation figured out, or if we, once we get through this building project, or whatever that, that big problem is that your team is trying to solve, that if I could just get through this issue, then everything would be okay and life would be great. And my guess is you've had this experience too. You get through that project and then another one kind of emerges. It's kind of like whack-a-mole, right? And I think the big aha for me as a leader was realizing that chaos or problem solving is really where we live as leaders, and that there's always going to be something that isn't quite right, that isn't quite sorted out, that there's always a problem that we're navigating. And it's not that we should live necessarily in chaos or create chaos, but this recognition that as leaders, part of what our role is to help kind of navigate the chaos and make the way smoother. And so to think that I would never have difficult problems or challenges or seasons that aren't what I expect is just unrealistic as a leader. And I think that's one of the things that was really important for me to recognize. And the thing that I want you to think about this week is that the problems that you navigate aren't so bad. The peanut butter days aren't so bad. That there's actually a lot of beauty in some of those things that might be lean or unexpected or not going exactly the way we hoped. That our gift to the people we lead is leading through those things, is providing vision and direction and insight in those challenges. And so I want you to think about that this week, and I'd love for you to comment and let us know, what does that look like for you? Maybe what's the challenge that you're navigating? What's your peanut butter days story? What's the thing that's kind of lean, not going exactly the way that you hoped it would go? But what beauty can you find in it? How can you help lead through it in a way that brings life and energy and joy to the team? Because a lot of times what happens is we fixate on, I could have fixated on, oh, I only have enough resources to buy peanut butter sandwiches. But instead, in that season, for whatever reason, I was really grateful for the other opportunities I had, and I was totally willing and happy to eat peanut butter every day in order to enjoy these other blessings and these other things that were going really well. And so the same is true for you and your organization. There's probably something that is not exactly like you would hope. Maybe it's a resources thing. Maybe it's a staffing thing. Maybe it's I'm working with an organization right now that's experiencing explosive growth, but it's creating all kinds of problems. And their temptation is to fixate on the problems when in actuality the growth is just a tremendous opportunity. I call those the good problems. When our growth creates challenges that we have to figure out behind the scenes by way of infrastructure and systems and things like that. Those are the good problems. Those are problems that we really want to have to solve. And so what does that look like in your organization? Where do you need to shift your focus? And recognize that, you know what, while there's this thing that's not necessarily going exactly the way that I want it to go, I can recognize, but here is what is good. Here is what is happening. And here is where I need to focus my energy, my attention, and help lead the staff and my volunteers or my team to recognize and understand that there's still potential, there's still opportunity, there are good things that we need to keep pursuing as a team. So I hope that makes sense. A little rambly today because honestly, this chaos has me kind of spinning a little bit, trying to figure out, okay, how do I make the most of this? I actually was spending some time this weekend pretty much like locked in because there was no going anywhere. And, but it gave me perspective, right? I had extra time to spend time in reading and studying and reflection. And I got to do some projects around the house and things that I might not otherwise have been able to do if I hadn't had the crazy weather. So the same thing is true for us as leaders and our organizations, and that sometimes the thing that limits us is actually the thing that gives us potential in another area. So I want you to be on the lookout for that. As the leader, what's the thing? What are our peanut butter days? What's our April snowstorm? What's the thing that isn't what we hoped for, but might actually give us the opportunity to focus on something else that is really good and really healthy? So think about that today. Spend some time and attention on that, and thanks for being a part. So glad, love connecting with you guys every Monday morning, and send us your questions, your comments, because I would love to just answer some of the questions that you guys are navigating too, and we'll keep leading well together. So have an awesome week, and we'll see you next Monday.